Are you a thoughtful leader? Maybe you are. Maybe you think you are. Let's find out. I'm Mindy Gibbins-Klein. I'm author of The Thoughtful Leader and host of the Thoughtful Leader podcast. Thoughtful leadership is all about thought leadership that goes above and beyond. Thought leadership that is truly new and original, exciting, disruptive, maybe even groundbreaking. Because let's face it, we need to raise the bar. My guests and I are absolutely obsessed with finding truly original thought leadership, and I'm going to bring you so many exciting ideas and opportunities, things for you to think about, and chances for you to push your thinking that you'll be very glad you tuned in. So thanks so much for checking out Thoughtful Leadership and the Thoughtful Leader podcast. I look forward to connecting with you very, very soon. Welcome to the show. My guest today is the amazing thoughtful leader, Alison Edgar. Hello, Alison.
Hi, Mindy. Thank you for having me.
Of course. You are so energetic. And the reason why I wanted everybody to hear from you is many people think that being thoughtful means being quiet. And it can mean that, but I wanted people to experience another aspect. Tell everybody a bit about yourself and how you are thoughtful despite being high energy.
So I'm Alison Edgar. I got an MBE on the Queen's Birthday Honour List in 2020. And the MBE is for entrepreneurship and business. And I think that feeds into a lot of the core things that I do. So as you well know, I wrote a book called Secrets of Successful Sales. And that was based on my sales experience. And again, I believe that everything that we do is a sale. So whether you're leading, whether it's your family you're leading, your friends that you're leading, I believe a lot of it is around self-awareness and understanding other people's behaviours. So the pillar one in the book is around behaviours. So I talk about using the DISC methodology. So I'm a DISC practitioner. So I've been working in and around DISC for, I think, maybe 20 years. And I think it's fundamental. So, you know, for anybody that's listening that doesn't know, I'm sure a lot of people will, but some people are task focused, some people are relationship focused, some people are introvert, and some people are extrovert. So I think that I'm complete extrovert and I'm enthusiastic and I'm passionate. And I think sometimes people get swept along in my wave. But you know, when I'm having a conversation with someone, it doesn't mean that I can be like, you know, I don't have to be less passionate or less enthusiastic. But sometimes, again, if I'm speaking to an introvert, my tone, my gesturing, and my engagement in that conversation will just come across at a different level. So as I've done there, so I'm still really passionate, I'm still really engaged, but I can actually just adapt my behaviours to build a stronger relationship with them. And the same comes so attention to detail. I'm dyslexic, which was always a challenge, you know, writing the books or doing anything that's written. It's a massive challenge for me. And one of the things, again, coming back to the DISC model, I sort of struggle being with the task-focused introverts. So they need all the T's crossed and the I's dotted. And that for me is one of my biggest challenges. But because I'm self-aware and I know the areas that they expect from me as a leader, I have to be more prepared. I have to, and if I can't do that preparation myself, I ensure that someone in my team fills that gap so that as a team, we are united in the leadership of other people.
Wow, such value in the first few minutes. I expected nothing less. So I hope everybody's enjoying this conversation because I'm about to take it into an interesting direction. Alison has no idea. We're going to talk about a big challenge that you've overcome, and you're not allowed to mention dyslexia again, so it has to be a different challenge. What is a big challenge you've overcome in your life or business?
So I think maybe we talk about one of the current challenges and how that affects the leadership coming back to the topic that we're covering on the podcast. So I write in some of my blogs and in the new book about being big boned. So for me, one of the biggest challenges coming from Scotland, coming from a working class family, I'm partial to the odd deep fried Mars bar, Mindy, and a little bit of deep fried haggis and things. So I've always found managing my weight probably one of the biggest challenges. And again, I talk about, some of the things that are going to be coming out over the next 6 months is I lost weight previously, but I lost it for aesthetic reasons. It wasn't about being healthy. It was I wanted to look good because I was going to an award ceremony and I wanted to get into a smaller dress. And so much so that the reason that I was doing it was wrong. I had to have radiotherapy to save my eyesight. And I think that's not a good leader. That's not a good, role model for anyone, whether it's leading your team or the people that follow you through social media or like all these things I feel are for the wrong reason. So about 5 years ago, my husband lost 8 stone or 100 pounds or, a massive amount of weight. And I kind of wanted to, but I didn't really want to make those changes. And a couple of things happened. I was in and out of London. I was getting up the tube stairs, and I was getting to the top and I was puffed out and I had bad arthritis in my knees. I could hardly walk. And I thought, I have to make change. So I decided that I would change my lifestyle. And I was watching the London Marathon, Mindy, on TV, right? And I thought, I'm going to do that. I'm going to sign up for that marathon. There's people running it in a chicken suit. I mean, if they can run that in a chicken suit, I can do anything. And just before I put the credit card number in, like literally, Mindy, I had the thing out, and I went, maybe I should try and run 1 mile before I attempt that 26 and 0.2 or whatever it is. So I decided I would download Couch to 5K. And I downloaded Couch to 5K. And I was so frustrated because I did week 1 and you only have to run for a minute. Mindy, I couldn't do it. I was sitting on the floor crying because I couldn't run for a minute. Anyway, I thought, well, I can either give up now or I can repeat week 1. I can just keep doing week 1 until I can run for a minute. Well, to cut a long story very short, I went from Couch to 5K, Couch to 10K, Couch to half marathon. And this year I climbed Mount Snowdon. I've never climbed a mountain in my life. And again, I think, what is thoughtful leadership? What is leadership? And I think it's really setting an example for other people to follow. And so many people say they're going to do something and they don't do it. A leader puts their head above the parapet and said, I'm going to run 5K or I'm going to climb Mount Snowdon. And, the knock-on effect, Mindy, the messages on social media, the number of people that have said to me, Alison, I've done Couch to 5K now. I've done this, I've done that, I've done the next thing. I've led them to do that, Mindy. And you can lead people as an extrovert. It's being that inspiration to people as a leader and really setting that goal that you can prove to people that it is achievable.
Yeah, well, you have inspired many people who I know, many people we both know. And I think that's the thing. When anybody says, I'm going to do X, the proof in the pudding, as they say. Sorry to talk about puddings when you've just talked about losing weight.
Deep fried bars.
It is, the proof is when you do it. And, I'm one of these people where I've set massive goals and I've achieved a lot in my life and I'm proud of it. And then there are things that I've said I was going to do that I haven't done. And I'm not so proud of those. However, it's never too late until you die, I guess.
But again, I think it's really interesting you say that because, I talk a lot about goal setting, in the new book. It's like, well, when do you know when that was the right goal? And it's really interesting. So one of the things that I set every year, I set the goals, I do a vision board, I put they're SMART goals. I know when I'm going to hit them. And one of the things was I wanted to start studying for a degree because I talk a lot about psychology, but I haven't got a qualification. I've got a qualification, obviously, in DISC, but I haven't got a degree. Mm-hmm. And I felt like a bit of a chip on my shoulder because I'd left school so early without the qualifications. And I thought, I'm going to start that degree. I'm going to get a degree. And it sat on there and I thought, actually, why do I want that degree? Why do I want that as my goal? And it was just because I had an inferiority complex in there that I felt that I needed it. And when I reviewed it, I thought, actually, I'm not going to do that. I looked at how much it would cost and how much time and it would need to be invested. So this is my little line on this one. It's Kenny Rogers, the gambler. And this is where, again, as a good leader, you've got to know when to hold in, you've got to know when to fold in, you've got to know when to walk away, and you've got to know when to run, because sometimes running or walking away from a goal is a sign of a stronger leader than somebody who continues to carry on for something that is not going to be achievable.
Amazing. That is, I do agree with you. And I've crossed a lot of goals off my list over the years because they weren't really my goals, or, they really didn't resonate with me. And also you change, as we grow, as things evolve, as the world turns and different situations come up, your priorities can change. So that's fine. Thank you for sharing that, because I think a lot of people feel like failures if they haven't achieved things that have been on a stupid list, right?
Yeah, but I think there's another thing, especially, we're now recording in the pandemic. So you can beat yourself up because you haven't achieved that goal, or you can actually just say, can I control not hitting that goal? And concentrate on the things that you can control, not the things you can't. So, I'll give you an example. One of the things for me, I run my life in banks, right? I call it the banks of balance. So if I deposit equally in my banks of balance, I live a happy life. So I've got the bank of cash, and that's not just the money, but anything that's work related. Then I do the bank of give back. So that's either giving back to myself, or it's giving back my time to others. I work with a lot of young people. And then the third one is the bank of faffing around, Mindy. I have to feed my bank of faffing around. So if I equally deposit in my banks of balance, I've got a happy life. If I find I'm working too much and I'm not depositing in the faffing around, I get a bit stressed. If I'm faffing around too much and not depositing in the bank of cash, that equally has a knock on. So, but what we did was, when I set my goals, and this is what I do with my team, so that, it's relevant. It's not just about me, but we do this as a business, that we set our goals, and every goal has to feed a bank. If it doesn't feed a bank, you're not going to have balance. So one of my goals was to go to Croatia in May 2020 on holiday, because again, I've got the picture of the beach, I've got the hotel, and that's what makes me carry on and work hard to be able to feed that bank. So I can't go to Croatia. I couldn't go there in 2020. I can't go there now in January 2021 when I record, but I can adapt the time frame so it doesn't come off the goal. I just push it back until May 2021. And I think that's where it's okay to do that. But you have to be aware that you're doing that. You're not giving up on the goal, whatever your goals are. But again, and we do that as a team, as a leader, we've all got that. So I know exactly what my team want to achieve in the 12-month period.
Yeah, well, you exemplify thoughtful leadership with that statement and that story, because one of the things that we talk about is creating the time and space to reflect. Yes, everybody says that, but not just reflect, is to really look, go inside, be self-aware, like we both are, and admit if something is in the wrong place. So you might have something in the wrong bank, for example, or it might not need to be in there at all. And I think for the listeners, just using that time consciously and intentionally would make a difference. If you guys do what Alison does and look at what you're doing, look at the goal list, look at the year ahead, and make some choices, but make those decisions, take action. It's not just about looking at the piece of paper or mindfully reflecting with your eyes closed. That's fine. That's the first step. But it's about her changing the date on that holiday. And it's for you listening out there to change that goal. If it still needs to be on your list, just change it in whatever way it needs to be changed, or amend or finesse. And then you can go towards something that is more meaningful and deserves to happen, deserves to be manifested by you.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting as well, because you talked about time in there, Mindy, and I think that word is time is the biggest thief. People don't have time. Oh, I'm too busy. Don't have time. And I think a lot of it is because people don't really know how to prioritize their time. So, looking at different methods, like, somebody had mentioned to me about the Eisenhower method. And I'm going, what on earth is that? And they're like, urgent, important, not important. Oh. And I'm like, I don't get that again. You know, I need things that are really easy for me to understand. And I think like Stephen Covey did it really well with the rocks in the jar. But again, I still think people struggle. So what I did was I sort of segmented things into Alison Edgar's big balls. So I'll talk about the basketballs, the tennis balls, and the ping pong balls. And, you know, you talked about self-reflection. So to me, a lot of people will treat that as a ping pong ball. That's something that's not urgent. Whereas I think it's a really big priority to treat that and that reflection as a basketball.
Yeah. Wow. That statement, your self-reflection is a basketball. That's going to be a new meme. I dare you. Oh, I shouldn't say that to Alison Edgar. We have time for a couple more questions. I really would love for you to answer a question that I ask some of my guests. And that is, what is a common misconception people have about you? Something they think about you that is simply not true.
I think they think I'm Superwoman. I think a lot of people go, oh, Alison Edgar. And the words, the people do say, oh, Alison, you're really inspiring. You really motivate me. I think they think that I'm perfect. And I don't mean that badly because I am so far from it. I've just managed to get myself into gear. I've always been determined. I've always been hardworking, but now I've kind of got a method behind it. And again, the method is actually called the Smash It method, which you'll find more out about within the year. But I don't just talk the talk, I actually walk the walk. But I think part of the reason I can reflect in that way is I talk a lot, again, in the new book about, I suffered from postnatal depression, Mindy, after my second son was born. And it was a mess. I was an absolute mess. I didn't want to be on the planet. You know, there was a load of stuff that really, and I think that's where people don't think that they don't see me as that kind of leader because they think I've lived through perfection and it's okay for her because she's got all that going on. But you can learn these things because although I've always had determination, I haven't always had the skills in those areas. And I think now it's the determination and the skills that actually have taken me to where I am now.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you very much for sharing so openly about what happened after your second son was born. And I think many people will relate to what you're saying, and they're going to be reflecting on, their own situation and how people don't understand them. And that's a perfect place to start. Thoughtful leadership is about looking and being honest and seeing where there are things that are not working or where you've made a mistake. We've spoken a lot about that on the show. So where do you feel more thoughtful leadership is needed in our society?
I think it's in all areas. And I think the fundamental is most people don't understand themselves. So we talk about diversity, we talk about inclusion, we talk about, around colour, around neurodiversity, around, women, around. And I think that it's really interesting because I've got probably a bit of a controversial thought on this, Mindy, because there's a lot of people say be kind, right? So that there's loads of people you need to be kind, be kind, be kind. Well, yes, I believe that everyone should be kind, especially now, that's a good leader, is a kind leader. But you can't control whether other people are kind. You're not in control of that. But what you can control is how you react to other people not being kind. And that's where resilience comes in. So, I think that one of the things is, yes, be more kind, but be more resilient. And actually, that's the key to it. And I think that's in all walks of life.
So being thoughtful, even to somebody who is not being thoughtful to you, and I've written about this a lot, controlling what you can control. This is absolutely on point in terms of what we talk about here. So I would like you to just reflect in the spirit of thoughtful leadership on one mistake you've made, and I'm purposely calling it a mistake, something that you did in the past 12 months where now, being thoughtful, you realize that you didn't do your best and you want to fix it. Are you willing to share something like that?
Yeah, it's really interesting because I think it's how you deem those mistakes. Because, a very interesting thing over, a period when we were allowed to meet up with friends, I am a wee bit of a business bore, right? I love talking about business. I could talk about business all day. And it's like when somebody has a newborn baby, don't they? They're talking about business all the time, their baby all the time. Oh, here we go. And I think one of the things I've struggled with in lockdown is being able to have those conversations. That's one of the things I've missed. So I haven't really missed a lot of stuff. I've just carried on and done the things I can control and not focus on them. But my friend basically had said, can you just stop? If you don't stop talking about business, I'm going to get you to leave my house now. So I got into trouble for talking about business too much and maybe giving advice on, it's not his business, he's an employee. And actually, he can't take the advice because he can't make any changes in his business anyway. So I think I've probably learned to keep my mouth shut and talk about how many miles you can run with a Dalmatian dog, a dachshund dog with little legs, and how many pints we think that Princess Margaret used to drink in The Crown. Those were the two conversations that I evolved the conversation into. So I think that my thoughtfulness on that is, you know what? Segment it. People don't want to hear about your business if you want to hear about dachshund legs and Princess Margaret. And that's, I would say, on reflection, something that I've looked back on. But what I also do is look back at that. Is that the people I want to surround myself with? And that was an interesting one, because the answer to that is actually, no, I think I've kind of outgrown some of this stuff and they don't understand the evolved me. And I think that's where when we look at change, and leadership is about evolution, isn't it? So I'm not the same as I was. We mentioned that earlier. You evolve, and do you want those people in your life? And so we look at it as a mistake, or maybe it wasn't such a mistake after all. They won't be listening to this because they're not interested in business, Mindy, or leadership.
Oh, Alison, gosh, there's scope for hours of conversation around that, because to some people that will sound really harsh, really, oh my gosh, cut these people out of your life. And there's different perspectives. We'll just leave it there. So we have to leave it all there, sadly. We all have things to do and the listeners need to get back to their lives. But before we say goodbye, what is the best way for people to find you and get in touch?
I'm really easy to find. All you have to do is Google Alison Edgar MBE and you'll find me. I'm not hard to find, because why would you blend in when you can stand out? Another top tip for leadership. So Alison Edgar, I'm on LinkedIn at the Alison Edgar, on Instagram, Twitter, and drop me like a note or a DM or any questions. Then I'm accessible, and I'm a thoughtful leader, so I'm easy to reply.
Oh, fabulous. Yeah, and she is, and you can tell, and what you see is what you get with this lady. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. See you soon.
Thanks, Mindy.
I hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Thoughtful Leader, and I hope it's inspired you to be more thoughtful as a leader in your business. Please consider subscribing and leaving a review. An important question for you. Do you want to create a culture of thought leadership in your organization? My best-selling book, The Thoughtful Leader, is available now on Amazon and many other sites in paperback, ebook, and audiobook formats. Please visit www.mindygk.com for more great content. That's www.mindygk.com. Speak to you again soon.